Welcome to EngloStories. Today, we have a wonderful fairy tale for you called The Princess and the Pea. This charming story was written by Hans Christian Andersen, a famous Danish author who lived in the 19th century. He published this tale in 1835, and it has been loved by children and adults around the world ever since. This is a story about a prince who was searching for a real princess to marry. He wanted someone truly special and royal. But how could he be sure that a princess was genuine? Well, in this story, you will discover a very unusual test that only a true princess could pass. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this tale of royalty, sensitivity, and the smallest object that made the biggest difference. Are you ready to find out what happens? Let's begin our journey into the world of princes, princesses, and one tiny pea. Now let's begin the story. Once upon a time, in a beautiful kingdom far away, there lived a handsome young prince. He lived in a magnificent castle with tall towers and colorful flags waving in the breeze. The castle was surrounded by lovely gardens filled with flowers of every color. The prince was kind and intelligent, but he was also very lonely. His parents, the king and queen, had passed away many years ago, and now he ruled the kingdom by himself. Although he had many servants and advisors, he wished for a companion, someone special to share his life with. "I must find a princess to marry," the prince declared one day, "but not just any princess. She must be a real princess, someone truly royal and special." The prince's search for a real princess took him to many distant lands. He visited palaces and castles throughout the world. He met many young women who claimed to be princesses, but something always seemed not quite right about them. Some were too proud, others too quiet. Some lacked proper manners, while others seemed to be pretending. Seasons changed from spring to summer, summer to autumn, and autumn to winter. The prince returned home, disappointed and sad. He began to wonder if he would ever find a true princess, someone worthy of his kingdom and his heart. Little did he know that his search would soon come to an unexpected end, and in the most surprising way. One stormy night, when the rain poured down in sheets and the wind howled like a pack of wolves, there was a loud knock at the castle gate. The prince, who was sitting by the fire reading a book, looked up in surprise. Who could be visiting on such a terrible night? He wondered. The old servant hurried to open the heavy wooden gate. Standing there, completely drenched from the rain, was a young woman. Her hair was soaking wet. Her clothes were clinging to her body, and water dripped from her nose and chin. "Please," she said in a soft voice, "I am a princess from a distant land, and I have lost my way in this storm. May I please have shelter for the night?" The old servant immediately brought her inside and informed the prince of their unexpected visitor. The prince came to the entrance hall to greet her. He looked at the young woman carefully. She was certainly beautiful, despite being wet from the rain. But could she really be a princess? She had no servants, no carriage, and no royal guards. She was completely alone. "Welcome to my castle," said the prince politely. "Of course you may stay the night." The prince's mother, the old queen, who still lived in a small part of the castle, heard about the visitor claiming to be a princess. The old queen was very wise and had an idea. She decided to test whether this young woman was truly a royal princess. Quietly, the queen whispered her plan to the servants. They nodded and hurried to prepare a special bed for their guest. First, They placed a tiny dried pea on the bedstead. Then they piled 20 mattresses on top of the pea. After that, they added 20 of the softest feather beds on top of the mattresses. The bed was so tall that the servants had to bring a ladder for the young woman to climb up. "I hope you will sleep well," said the old queen with a knowing smile. "Thank you for your kindness," replied the young woman, not knowing about the test that awaited her. The storm continued throughout the night. Rain lashed against the windows, and thunder rumbled in the distance. The young woman climbed up the ladder and lay down on the top of all those mattresses and feather beds, eager to get some rest after her difficult journey. Meanwhile, the prince could hardly sleep that night. Could this mysterious visitor really be the princess he had been searching for? Or would she be just another disappointment? The next morning, the prince and the old queen waited anxiously in the dining hall for their guest to appear. When the young woman finally came down for breakfast, they were shocked by her appearance. She had dark circles under her eyes, and she walked with slow, tired steps. "Good morning," said the prince. "I hope you slept well." The young woman gave a small, polite smile before answering honestly. "I must thank you for your hospitality, but I have to confess that I hardly slept at all last night." The prince looked confused. "Was your room not comfortable? Was it the storm that kept you awake?" The young woman shook her head. "The room was beautiful, and I wasn't afraid of the storm, but there was something hard in my bed. I don't know what it was, but I felt it all night long. It was like lying on a rock. My whole body is bruised and aching. I tossed and turned all night, but I couldn't get comfortable. I've never experienced anything so terrible in my life." The prince and the old queen exchanged meaningful glances. Only a true princess would have skin so delicate and sensitive that she could feel a tiny pea through 20 mattresses and 20 feather beds. No ordinary person could have felt something so small under so many layers. The old queen's eyes twinkled with delight. "Well," she said, "now we know that you are indeed a real princess. Only someone of true royal blood could be so sensitive." The young woman looked puzzled. "What do you mean?" The prince took her hand gently in his. With excitement in his voice, he explained the test that she had unknowingly passed. "There was a pea under your bed, just one small pea beneath all those mattresses, and you felt it. This proves beyond doubt that you are a true princess." The young woman was surprised to learn about the test. She had never imagined that her uncomfortable night would prove her royal identity. But the prince was overjoyed. After years of searching, he had finally found what he was looking for, a true princess. The prince invited the princess to stay at the castle longer so they could get to know each other better. He showed her around the kingdom, introduced her to the people, and they spent many hours talking about their lives, their dreams, and their hopes for the future. With each passing day, the prince and the princess grew closer. They discovered that they shared many interests. Both loved music and could play instruments. Both enjoyed reading and discussing ideas. Both cared deeply about the welfare of the people in the kingdom. The princess was not only sensitive, but also kind, intelligent, and brave. She had traveled alone through many dangerous lands, which showed her courageous spirit. The prince admired these qualities in her. The people of the kingdom also came to love the princess. They were impressed by her genuine interest in their lives and her desire to help solve their problems. Whenever she walked through the village, children would run up to her with flowers, and the villagers would bow respectfully. It didn't take long for the prince to realize that he had found not just a true princess, but also a true partner for life. Within a month, the prince asked the princess to marry him, and she happily accepted. Their wedding was the grandest celebration the kingdom had ever seen. People came from far and wide to witness the union of their beloved prince and his true princess. As for the P that had identified the princess, it was placed in the Royal Museum, where it remains to this day. The tiny vegetable was put in a beautiful glass case with a golden plaque that told the story of the prince's search and how he found his perfect match. The prince and princess ruled the kingdom together with wisdom and compassion. They lived happily ever after, their love growing stronger with each passing year. And whenever they had a disagreement, they would visit the museum to look at the P and remember how their wonderful story began. With a stormy night, a lost princess, and the smallest test that made the biggest difference. The story of the princess and the P teaches us several important lessons. First, it shows us that true character often reveals itself in unexpected ways. The princess proved her royal identity not through fancy clothes or jewels, but through her natural sensitivity. Second, the story reminds us not to judge people by their appearance. The princess arrived wet and disheveled, but she was still royalty inside. Finally, the tale teaches us about persistence. The prince didn't give up on his search for a real princess, even when it seemed hopeless. His patience and determination were eventually rewarded when he found exactly what he was looking for, sometimes in the most unexpected circumstances. Did you enjoy this story of the Princess and the Pea? If you did, please hit the like button and share it with your friends who are also learning English. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What would you have done if you were the prince or the princess? Follow EngloStories as we upload a story daily so that you can look forward to our next video. Your support helps us create more content to help you learn English in a fun and engaging way.